Okay, so today we're going to do solving systems using matrices. So what a matrix is this. It's a way to organize a set of numbers, okay? So we arrange them in rows and columns. Alright, so these are your columns. These are your rows. Okay, so we name the matrix based on its rows and its columns. So this one, knowing it has 2 rows, 3 columns, it would be a 2 by 3 matrix. So it's just like if you were to name a board, like a 2 by 4, same concept. Alright? Now what a system is used, or a matrix is used for, is used to solve a major system of equations. So assume we had like 200 variables in some kind of information. We can use the matrix to easily solve for the X, Y, Z, so on and so forth. So this is used a lot in computer programming and in building software and things like that. Alright, when we solve a system using matrices, we align the X and the Y variables, meaning they're in rows or columns like this. Okay? So, we take the coefficients along with their sign and we put them in brackets such as this. So we do 5, 3 to negative 8. Then we raise the entire matrix to the negative 1. The reason we do that is because there's a rule you can't divide by a negative or divide by a matrix, so instead we multiply by the reciprocal. And then we would put 6 and 2. Okay, so this is what you type in your calculator. And the way you type in the calculator is on the next slide. But really, this is the whole gist of doing a matrix. Other than this, it's really not that difficult. So, these are the steps for putting it in the calculator. This is what you need to write down. Most important thing of the day. Okay, you hit alpha zoom. This is the green button. This is the zoom button on the graphing tools. You enter the number of rows and columns. So, most likely it's going to be a 2 by 2 or a 2 by 3. You hit OK, because what happens on the yellow calculators especially is a little window pops up. Then you type your values into the matrix, meaning type your coefficients. Okay, and then we raise it to the negative 1. And the X to the negative 1 key is under the math key. And on top of it, you'll see that there's a little blue word called matrix, and that's your hint that that's the one you need to push. Okay? Then we multiply it by an answer matrix. So for example, it would look something like this. Raised to the negative 1 times 4 and 2. And ideally, when we get an answer, the answer would be X and Y. Okay? And we want to know the X, we don't want to know the Y. Okay? So, this is what we're trying to find. Sorry, people are waving through my door. Alright, so let's do an example. So, we want to know the X coordinate of this matrix. So, we take the coefficients from here and here, and we put them in a matrix. So this is going to be a 2 by 2 because we have 2 rows, 2 columns. We then raise it to the negative 1 and multiply it by the answer column, which would be 3, negative 3. Okay. When you get an output, when you hit enter in your calculator, which like I said, we'll do this in the calculators tomorrow where you can actually see it and touch it. But I think you get like negative 6, 9. Okay. So negative 6, 9 is your answer. So this would be your X, this would be your Y. And there's the bell. So X and Y, so it asks us for the X coordinate, so we would say X is equal to negative 6. Now, if you had a 3 by 3 matrix, then the Z would be down here. So basically the first column corresponds to this number, the second column corresponds to this number, and so on and so forth. That's why you want to make sure that your X's and your Y's are lined up. Okay, so to recap, the most important part about a matrix is knowing the steps on the calculator. So we want to make sure that we do alpha zoom, and that's only for the yellow calculators. If you have a silver calculator or an old school TI-84, it's a little bit more complicated. You can still do it, but it takes more time. Alright, we enter the number of rows and columns, hit OK, we type in the answer matrix, and then we get our solutions. And we'll talk about what happens when maybe sometimes it doesn't work and you get a weird answer. We'll talk about that in class. Okay, so that's the overall of matrices, plural, and it's pretty simple stuff. Okay, so tomorrow in class we'll practice actually typing these in the calculator and solving some out and finding the answers. So that's all for tonight.